change that. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? This is your friendly neighborhood Crash Low here. I am in the process of unmuting everybody to make sure that we can all talk, because this is going to indeed be interactive. Can a couple of you talk back to me and let me know that I've got your mics turned on? Probably all muted yourselves individually, didn't you?
Can you hear me now?
I hear you. Who's that?
This is Greg.
Hey, Greg. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. You got Josh with you as well?
Yep, Josh is jumping on.
Okay, cool. Looks like he is on there. Frank, are you out there? All right, that's Frank. I'm going to mute you, Frank, because it sounds like you're in the toilet. All right, I'm not going to go through everybody. I just wanted to kind of chime in and see if we could get a couple folks here and there. If somebody's super loud or something along those lines, I will probably mute their phone for them just to kind of keep this thing going. But ideally, everybody, we do want this to be interactive. So welcome to the class of September 2017. I know not all of you specifically are from that class, but I did want to, I am glad that we are all able to get on board here, and I think we've got a pretty good group today, and I think you guys are going to find this is a fantastic working session. Before we go too much further, just a couple of technical pieces. Scott, can you hear me? Can you talk back?
Yes. Yep, I'm here.
All right, Beth, are you coming in loud and clear?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, perfect, guys. All right, so we've got a I don't want to say quite a cast of thousands, but we do have a good crew here today that are going to be working with you. And as I said in the invite, really the goal of this, I'm going to frame this a bit, and then I'll do some introductions for everybody that we've got on the call. But the goal here, guys, is that collectively over years of doing this, we really have put together a pattern of what we see for folks once they come on board and decide that Workspace as a Service is a platform that they want to take throughout their operation and that they want to take out to their customers. We really have seen a number of trends and things that work for folks to go out and be wildly successful with this. And we've got on the phone, we've got combined, I don't even know how many years of experience between myself, the sales reps that are here on board listening, as well as between Scott and Beth, who I'll introduce in a second. We have a plethora of experience here. And when we talk offline away from clients, we basically all say the same thing over and over again that we see when folks go out in the world and be wildly successful. And we're going to focus primarily on one of those things this week, and that's going to be setting up an internal client for yourself, or maybe it's an external client, doesn't really matter. But the goal of today's session is to get you set up and walk through the process of setting up a client and launching that client up to the cloud. Ideally, you all have already set up a client. I put that as a prerequisite to all of you. So we're going to take that client, we're going to actually go ahead and go through the process of launching it to the cloud. So on the call to help me, I've got Beth Griffin. If Beth, you want to say hello and introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Griffin with Itopia. I'm the Partner Community Manager here, and I'll be showing you some key features of our software today.
Okay, and then also on the call, I've got Mr. Scott Markley. And Scott and I work together a lot, feels like almost daily, probably too much for like an old married couple. But at the end, maybe we are an old married couple and we just don't know it. But anyway, Scott has been doing this since he actually rode here officially the first time on a dinosaur. So he is older than dirt, and he's been doing this forever. And there's very little in this space that if I don't know something where I don't go to Scott. So Scott, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you for the warm introduction. So Scott Markley, VP of Sales with Itopia. Crash and I have known each other for a long time. And I think, what you guys will see with the session here this afternoon is, if you can use it, you can sell it. If it's easy to tell, it's easy to sell. And it's one of the things that is important for the next call, because part of the next call will be helping probably to align the team. So with the cloud desktops, your technical operations folks, will have a chance to see it. Your sales team potentially has a chance to see it. And the best thing you can do is get all the questions out up front and go forth and conquer. So that's the goal with today's call.
Yeah, and as Scott mentioned, as you guys saw in the invite, there are 3 sessions to this, one this week, one next week, and one the following week. And the goal really is of the sessions is for you guys, for it to be interactive. So especially on the third one, it's going to be a true working session. And one just kind of administrative point, you guys do need to actually go and register for each session. So if you haven't registered for the second or the third session, make sure that you guys all go and do that. Additionally, we are going to be recording these, so I will make sure that you get them afterwards. So don't feel like you have to capture every single thing on the session. If you miss something, we'll make sure to get it to you. And then lastly, if from this we need to do a private session one-on-one, we can absolutely do that. But part of the reason why we do this as a group is we've found that a lot of times people learn well in these settings with their peers. And what we've actually seen in the sessions that we've done in the past, which has been really cool, is we've kind of seen this camaraderie form between the MSPs that take part in it. And they're all in different regions. They're not really competitive with each other because they're serving different markets or they're serving different regions. But they are able to work together from the standpoint of just bouncing ideas off of each other. And so that is something that I found is really cool, and it's one of the neat things that comes out of this. And by the third session, everybody's usually feeling pretty warm and cozy, so they don't mind kind of sharing information about what they're doing or a deal that they're working on or a client that they're trying to close. And we just have found that is very, very successful. So without further ado, I'm just going to kind of touch quickly here on what our kind of different sessions are going to be, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Beth. Scott may have a few things he wants to chime in on, but the bottom line is the goal of today is around eating your own dog food. As Scott said, and I will stress this over and over and over again, is if you guys don't deploy this internally at some level so that you have a desktop to show your clients, because that's really the only thing they care about, is they want to see, how does this affect me? Like, how are my people still going to work? You've got to have a desktop to show them. You've got to have an internal desktop. It doesn't have to have all their apps on it, but you've got to have something to show them. So that's really the focus for today. The next week, we're going to get into like a deep technical demo. We're going to go off on a couple different tangents around that. And so that'll be the focus of that week. And then lastly is going to be a peer group working discussion, right? So bring a client, bring a friend, whatever. But ideally, we want to go through those sessions and talk about the same questions that Scott and I see every single time we get a new client, the same questions that we see from their clients, and just really work through those so that you guys are armed with as much information as possible, as many arrows in your quivers, as many arrows in your quiver as you go out and start talking to your clients, and how to go about that, and what things to look for, what are key points that you want to make sure address, what are things that you don't need to worry about addressing, all the really things that are going to make you successful from a business standpoint. The last session, Scott and I are really going to dive deep into that. And to be honest with you, that one is we're going to schedule that one for an hour and a half, because it's probably going to run a little bit long, especially if it's very interactive. So that's what we're looking at. That's what the session is going to look like. Scott, is there anything, or Beth, is there anything that you want to add before, Beth, I turn it over the session to you?
No, not at this time. Scott, anything from your side?
No, the only thing I would encourage is the chat feature. If you have a question or you want us to pause or stop, you got something going on your side, go ahead and fire it in the chat. We'll all be watching it, and we'll hit the brakes and answer the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I can turn your mics on. We don't have to do it just via chat. If it's something that you actually want to ask out loud, we can do that. That's not a problem at all. And without further ado, Beth, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, and you can share your screen with us and get this party started.
Okay, great. Thanks, Crash. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Again, today I'll be showing you some key features of our Itopia Cloud Automation software, including the Launch Wizard, client management modules, support options, and we'll establish next steps. And I just want to tell you up front that Chrome is the #1 preferred browser. And I'm going to share my screen now, and when you registered for this call may have seen One of the prerequisites was creating a client already. If you haven't, well, first, Crash, can you confirm that you can see my screen now?
We can, yep. We all can see your screen.
Okay, great. So here I'm logged into the cast.itopia.com portal, and one of the prerequisites was having a client created. If you haven't done that, when you log in, you simply create the green Create Client button, and you just enter basic information about that client and a site, and you'll be able to get them into the system. Sorry about that, just minimized the Citrix panel. So we'll get logged back in, and I'm going to go right into the client that's been added to the system. And you should see that client in your dashboard. The one I've prepared for today is the Water Dog Training. And we click on Manage, which is the briefcase, under Actions. And right now, we've got one user under this client. Now, all you have to do is create the client, and you can send it to the cloud. I added one user just so you can see an example in the launch process. So all you need to do is add a client, and then we're going to click Send to Cloud in the top right corner. So this is the provisioning wizard that automates the creation of the Windows Cloud Workspace on the Google Cloud. And the first step of the provisioning wizard will ask you to give your Google Cloud Platform credentials. So you should be prompted, if you have more than one Google account, you'll be prompted, and you want to make sure you select the account that pertains to your business.
And one thing, Beth, I just let me chime in here. I see a lot of times there's questions and confusion around this because a lot of people have more than one Google account. So just make sure that as you go through this and you're setting this up, that you're selecting the correct Google account for. Sometimes it does get confusing, and that's okay. We understand. We see it. I mean, Beth sees it more than anybody, but like we see it all the time. But people are like, oh shoot, which account is it? No big deal. We see that stuff all the time.
And I'll give you a quick little tip. If you, for any reason, it doesn't prompt you, and it automatically shows your other Google account that you don't want to use here, then you can go to another Chrome tab and go to gmail.com and just sign out of that account. And then come back here, turn the knob off, turn the knob on, and it will prompt you, and you'll be able to select the account you want to use.
Great tip. That's a great tip.
Okay, and then what you'll want to do is notice this section to the right where it says Select Project. Now, Google has this concept of projects, and you want to think of a project equal to a client. And this really comes in handy later when you receive the bill from Google. All the servers, all the resources that are provisioned will have a project name next to it on the Google bill. So you'll want to create a project and give it the same name as that customer that you're provisioning to help you with your billing later. I've already prepared.
Beth,
yep. Go ahead.
Sorry, just let me ask a question there because I've gotten this question a bunch. Are there any limitations there that you know of in terms of how anybody can name the client? Like, are there any alpha or numeric limitations there in terms of, or special characters in terms of how someone would name the client that you're aware of?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but this will tell you if you enter something that it doesn't like. Okay. I just entered a special character, and it seems okay with it. There's a minimum and a maximum length. I can tell you that much based on what I'm seeing right here.
Okay.
But it will let you know. All right, so I'm going to select the project that I've prepared for today. And what you'll see is our software automatically tells you that you need to enable certain features on your Google Cloud account. We check in the background for you, and then we make it very easy for you to turn on those features that are required for us to provision to your Google account. Now, I've already got some of them turned on, but I'm going to walk you through the process anyway. This will give you an indication. You'll probably have a red X next to each of these APIs and the IP quota restriction. So what you want to do is we've provided a hyperlink here on each one. So you just want to click on that hyperlink. It will open up a new Chrome tab, bring you right into that API that needs to be enabled, and you will see a button here at the top that says Enable, and you simply just click the Enable button. Then you go back to the Itopia software, go to the next API that needs to be enabled, click on the hyperlink, opens a new Chrome tab. Again, you'll have an Enable button. This one I'll go ahead and click. You can see this process can take a little bit of time. So you want to leave it running, and then you can go back to the Itopia software, click on the next API, and just keep working your way down the list until you have everything enabled. And by the way, you only have to do this once per project. And again, this does take a little bit of time. So I'm going back to the Itopia software. I'm going to click on the next hyperlink down. And this last one pertains to the IP quota. There's not an additional cost associated with this, but you will want to upgrade your IP quota. And what that means is Google limits the number of IP addresses available to you. They just like to, sort of allocate them to you as needed. So when you come to this page, you're going to have an upgrade account button. You just go ahead and click on that, and they'll make IP addresses available to you, which are required for provisioning the customer. So once you've clicked on all the hyperlinks, you will see these little refresh buttons at the end of each. And the goal is to get green check marks next to all of them. So you refresh and you get the green check marks. So we still have one that is pending. Just going to go back and click on that again. And so this is enabled, and it has been known to take a little bit of time. So while that is working in the background, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the support options while we're waiting for that. If you ever run into trouble or have questions, in the lower right-hand corner, you have this chat bubble as one of your support options. This is a direct line into our help desk team. So you can create a new conversation and chat and give your questions, and they will help you immediately. We also have a help center. So here in the top right corner, there's the help button. You click that and then click Help Center. In the Help Center, you have everything in our software documented. So, again, you don't have to remember everything we're telling you today. You can come here at any time and review the documentation. You can either search for a keyword, or you can simply look down below, and these are in order, in a logical order, as far as the process you go through for discovering, launching, and managing your client. So right now we're going through the launch process, which is this module right here. And you'll see we are launching a client. That gives you the previous steps: signing up, creating the first client, which we talked about, discovery, sending to cloud, authorizing, and it also gets into the API enablement and continues from there. So let's see if we have our API enabled now. Let's see.
Hey Beth, I was actually on a call earlier this morning, and oh, sorry, I got a little feedback. You might need to log out and log back in. That one got stuck. Oh.
Yeah, it just went through.
It just went through. Okay, very good. And just in case everybody on the call needs to do that, you can hit that refresh wheel a couple of times to see if it updates.
Okay, all right, great. So that's the goal, the all green check marks. And when that's completed, you go ahead and click next. The next button then becomes available. And now we get into, the domain creation and the Windows portion of setting up the cloud workspace. First, we have username suffix. This is the second half of the username that end users enter when they log into the cloud workspace. So on a daily basis, the end users click on an RDP shortcut on their desktop, and they have to enter a username and password. The second half of that username is the username suffix. So it should be something simple, but something that pertains to the client. So if we were provisioning Waterdog, I would recommend Waterdog as the username suffix. From time to time, you'll also see these little question marks with helpful information about that particular field. Then you select your operating system for the domain. Windows 2012 R2 gives the end users a Windows 8 experience, and Windows 2016 gives the end users a Windows 10 experience.
Hey Beth, can I just have you hit pause for a second? I just want to make sure everybody is on this screen and is caught up. If anybody's having any issues or is stuck on the previous screen, can you just speak up real quick and we can help troubleshoot it?
Let's see here. Yep, hang on a second. We got. Hey, Greg, go ahead. You should be live, Greg, if you want to chime in.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure that I hadn't actually created any users yet. So, give me a minute and I'll get kind of caught up here.
Okay, Greg didn't do his homework. The dog ate it.
Well, I had created the company, but I hadn't done any deployment or any.
Understood. Okay. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there's plenty that we can kind of discuss here. I know Frank's got another question, so I'm going to jump over and see if I'm going to grab Frank's question real quick, and then we'll go from there. Hang on one second. Hey, Frank, are you live? Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah, I'm just wondering with the username suffix, like I have one client who is going to have multiple locations. Can we just integrate them so that way they're still just going to one domain, or does that, because I'm assuming that's creating a domain in the AD. And or do we need to separate it by the locations, for location 1, location 2, location 3?
Great question.
Yep, good question. So you'll actually use the same domain and the same username suffix for all the users under that organization, under that client.
And just to add to that, so by creating the client and going through this wizard, you're entering settings here for the creation of the dedicated domain on the Google Cloud. So, every person in that organization, no matter their location, will have their own username. The username suffix is company-wide, so J. Smith at Waterdog, B. Griffin at Waterdog. No matter what location I'm logging in from, that will be my username, and I will be logging in under the same domain as the other employees at other locations. Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Frank,
Okay,
you have I didn't know if maybe you had any other questions. Is there anything else that you're curious about right now that you want Beth to address?
No, because we'll probably do it because I want to set up the other client. We'll probably do that at a later point. Right now,
Okay.
I'm gonna just turn on the one client that I've got for me, and I think I'm already. I'm not sure if I'm past this point already on my setup, but
Okay.
users and stuff like that. So that's all. But I just had that question about that. That's all.
And again, we can revisit some of this stuff, right? I mean, don't feel like it all has to be captured right this second. So, okay, cool. Just raise your hand if you've got another question. I'm going to go back just quickly to Greg and see where he's at. Hang on one second.
Okay,
Hey, Greg,
yeah.
how are we coming along?
Let's see. I am actually, let's see, I'm having the issue where it's trying to use my personal Gmail account.
Okay, so what you want to do is what you see on my screen right now where you have this knob for authorized requests, go ahead and turn that off and go to a new Chrome tab and go to gmail.com, for example.
Okay.
That will probably automatically go into your personal Gmail, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in the top right corner, click on, I think that it's a little person icon. You just want to sign out of your Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to the Itopia software and turn back on that knob, move it to the right for authorized requests, and a window should pop up asking you to select a Google account.
You know what? I closed my Itopia window. Let me get back into that.
Okay.
The CAPTCHA. I might not be a person. And I send to the cloud, authorize request using my Google account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now it comes up and I can use another account.
Great.
Does that look like the right one, Greg, that you set up for your trial and everything?
Yeah, because that was
Okay, cool.
that was my corporate domain.
Right.
And okay, but it bounced me back into my GregC00 at Gmail. Is there any chance I would have linked them? I don't think I could do that.
I don't know about that, but what you could do now is turn back off that knob about authorizing with Google
Mm-hmm.
and go to a new Chrome tab, go back to Gmail, log out of your personal and log into your business.
Oh, you know what? I think I am logged. Yeah, I'm logged in. Yeah, I'm logged into Chrome.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do this in an incognito window.
That's why we do these sessions.
Yeah, that's very key to make sure that you're hooking into the right account and that it's using your right Google account, because often people do have more than one, and it's best to get on the right one from the very beginning than to have to change it later.
Yeah, and Greg, this happens all the time. Like, I mean, I like Beth sees this and I see this, Scott sees this. Like, we see this multiple times a week because so many people have more than one account. So this is super, super common.
Mm-hmm.
And it still isn't convinced that I'm a person.
Is it asking you to pick street signs?
Yep. Oh, now it's letting me. Yeah, no, I had already had this Gmail, this Google account because I was using it with Webmaster Services.
Okay. Already a Google fan.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but they're the only game in town for a lot of what they do. And now we verify.
Hey Beth, just a quick admin check. Are we doing okay on time? It's 2:35. You feel confident once we get Greg set, we can keep going and be okay to finish before 3 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah, so now I'm back at the, yeah, now I'm at the, so I've got, oh, actually it jumped back to my other one. Maybe, I don't know. I'm thinking I must have them connected somehow, because I signed into a new window that I've never signed into my personal Gmail account with.
So at this point, Crash, I would want to see his screen, or
Yeah, Greg, you know, if you want, I can. If you're okay with it, we can share your screen real quick, and you can show us what you're seeing. Would that be okay?
Yeah, give me just a second, because I was doing this on
Okay.
another system, so because I had you guys on full screen.
Not a problem. And the other thing too is if we think we're gonna not, Beth, if you think we might not have enough time, then we can also go and get Greg. We can also look at this offline too. So we've got options.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me, Greg, if you're ready, and I will get the I will give you, I can transfer control over to you.
Okay, yeah, you can send control to me, please.
Okay, there we go. So I'm making you a presenter, so you can go ahead and share your screen now.
Yeah, so I'm now in a new incognito window, and more fun with cars. But wait, there's more.
Yeah, I think it usually does 4 of them. Like, how many times does it need to prove you're not a robot?
One more time. It's not a star font. It could be. Oh, they're going to international street signs. Nice.
Yeah, actually, I see the international ones a lot actually when they're doing these. Is the thought that no robot could make a program that would actually be able to do this?
Okay.
Seems like there would be.
Okay, and you could click the launch. Yep, you got the shortcut there. Great.
Okay, so authorize requests. And we'll use.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And just as a note to everybody who's saying, well, I didn't have to do this or whatever, it's actually really good, in my opinion, for you all to see a lot of the stuff that other folks are going through, because at some point you may indeed have to see some of this or deal with some of this. So it's good for you to see see a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so we're in an incognito window. I signed in using my Greg C at Charlin Tech, and it still shows me as a Greg C00.
And Crash, this is something I have not seen before happen.
I have.
You have. Okay.
I have, and I've had it happen to me personally, because I have multiple Google accounts, and it just puts them together. I don't know why, but no matter what I do, it brings me back to clo@gmail.com or crashlow@gmail.com, no matter how I sign in. And that might be a cookies thing, it might be a history thing, I'm not sure, but it always brings me back to that. And I'll say this too, that's not the account that I set up my free credits under, and it still draws from my free credits. So somehow Google has an algorithm, it seems, in the back end that's tying them together.
Okay, so we have a couple options.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? Signed in as this, I had created this DAS project signed in as Greg C. at Charlentech. So, so this, it looks like I've got.
Yep. And then we can see if we see that. So go back to the Itopia software. You can leave this as is. Go back to the Itopia software and click that drop down where it says select project, and let's see if we can see that. So you do see the project that you created in your business account, so that is a great sign. So I would say based on that, you can move forward.
Okay.
And then just click through each of the API hyperlinks, enable them. This is a good one to see because mine was enabled already. This is one that's not enabled. It's good for everybody to see this. And just click enable, and
Okay, and I can just go through the others while that one's enabling, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So Beth, why don't I go ahead and turn this back to you? Okay.
Yes.
Is that okay? Is there anything else you need to see on Greg's screen?
Nope, that's good. It's great as long as he's able to get through these. I think he's well underway now.
Okay, cool. I want to get you back to the presenter so that we can make sure we stay on task here with being done by 3. Greg, you okay? Or you feel okay with where we're at now? Okay.
Yep, I'm good, thanks.
All right. Okay. Beth, you've got control again.
All right. I just clicked show my screen, and let me know if y'all can see my screen again with Water Dog Training October.
We've got it.
Okay, great. So we entered the username suffix, selected the operating system, and now we're on to zones. You'll see you can provision to any Google data center on the planet with our software, and they're referred to as zones. And each zone will have multiple letters. You can select any letter, they're all comparable, and we have a map. Google has a map if you want to see where all the different zones are located, but you want to pick the one geographically closest to the client. So we can start typing in central and it will filter it out, for example, and you can select that Google data center. And then in the top right corner we get into DNS. So for the AD domain DNS name, again with the question mark, you've got a little example. So for WaterDog, I put waterdog.local. The next field auto-populates. And then the external DNS name, you want to put the domain name that that you can manage the DNS for. So you will have to have an A record created for the RDP shortcut to the Cloud Workspace. So you want to put the domain that either you have access to the registrar of the client and can put in an A record, or you can send your client the information and they can add that A record. Any questions about that before I go on? Okay. Then we get into
questions, Beth?
Okay. Then we get into advanced settings. Local drive access is so you can access the local from the virtual. Printer redirection, task manager. If you want to send all users to cloud or not, you just turn it on or off. This goes towards the auto scaling. So, if let's say you have 50 users in the system and you want our software to auto size the terminal servers, then you'll want to send all users to the cloud with the provisioning, and we'll auto scale. Otherwise, you can just have the environment provisioned at a base without the users and send the users later. But I do recommend sending all the users to the cloud. Then we have send all apps to the cloud, send all security groups to the cloud, enable standby backup domain controller. So if this is turned on, the backup domain controller will be configured to turn on for an hour each night to synchronize with the primary domain controller. And that's really designed to minimize your cost but still have the redundancy of a BDC. If you turn it off, then the backup domain controller will still be provisioned, but it will be on 24/7. Then if you can opt for a dedicated file server, if the client has 2 terabytes, for example, you'll want to have a dedicated file server. For smaller deployments, it's not necessary. And if you do not turn it on, then the first terminal server will also be the file server. Then you have an SSD storage option. This is not recommended for provisioning the domain. The standard persistent disk storage is the performance is excellent. And at a later time, if you have to provision a SQL server for the client, then and it's of high volume, then we do recommend using the SSD storage for that server only, but it's not necessary for the creation of the original domain. And then you have...
Hey, Beth.
Yep, go ahead.
Just real quick, I'm going to turn Greg's mic on. He's got a question about the AD.
Okay.
And I didn't even read the full question. I saw it quick, so Greg, I just thought I'd turn your mic on and let you ask.
Okay, yeah, let's see. So the Active Directory that gets created for this, is it, let's see, is it shared between multiple clients or is it just for that tenant?
It's just for that client. So each client in the software has their own dedicated domain controller and backup domain controller, etc.
Okay. Okay, and then let's see. As for the as for the suffix, is that 100% required? The reason I ask is, and if we wanted to do like Azure AD sync, it'd be a little bit easier if we could just use the same same usernames.
It is required.
Okay.
And as far as Azure AD Sync, we may want to bring in a more technical resource, Crash, to get that answered. Yeah. As far as synchronizing between, because with this dedicated domain that's provisioned, you will have domain admin rights and access. So I would like to defer that specific question about the sync with Azure to one of my engineers.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Greg, could you send me an email about that specifically, and Scott and I will research that and either get back to you with an answer or get back to you with a conversation going into a little more detail about that, okay?
Okay, sure.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Okay, anything else about that before I go on? Okay, so gateway. So here you have the option to enable an RDS gateway. So our software will provision an RDS gateway. It's really required when you have more than 25 users, because at that point you'll have multiple terminal servers and the RDS gateway is used for load balancing across the 2 terminal servers. Other than that, it's for security. So you could choose to have it for the smaller deployments for added security, but it is required for the larger deployments. And then once you have it...
Let me chime in on the RD Gateway real quick, because I think this is an important point, because some of you, we haven't even had a chance to share this with you yet. But going forward, I know we had a lot of conversations with a number of you around the different plans and the starter plan and the pro plan, and needing to be on the pro plan in order to have access to that RD Gateway. We've actually made a few changes with that, and now you have access to that RD Gateway on the starter plan as well. So I know there's a couple of you that are on the starter plan, so we can talk about that, and I'll fill you in on a little more detail about that. But I know that was a point of discussion with, I think, every one of you, so we can take that offline. But just know that even on the starter plan now, you'll be able to have access to the RD Gateway.
Crash,
and go.
Just real quick to clear that up. That feature won't be available on the starter plan until sometime in November.
Right, but we can the bottom line is we can make it work for you. There's a workaround if need be. So. All right, Beth, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. All right, and then once you have the Gateway enabled, if you would like to enable Remote App, you can. Gateway is required for Remote App, and that's essentially Microsoft's Remote App of publishing applications, the individual icons for the apps down to local desktop instead of logging into the full desktop to get your apps. And then if you have enabled Gateway, it will require a certificate. So you'll want to purchase the SSL certificate ahead of launching the client, because this will require you to put in your certificate password, and our system will automatically configure that for you. Okay, then we have an idle session timeout option. So these are standard Microsoft time frames. If the end user is logged in and idle for 30 minutes, the system will disconnect them and then log them off completely after a period of time. So that's also for security purposes. And then we have the RDS license configuration. So you'll be procuring RDS CALs for each client, formerly known as terminal server CALs, and you can enter, for example, if you have you're a member of a SPLA program, you can select that from the list. There's different types of license agreements, and you can enter the license code here to enter to provision and configure the RDS licensing server. Now, a couple things about this. If you don't have that license code immediately, then you can select other agreement. Let me scroll down here. Other agreement and enter all ones, and that will allow you to leverage the Microsoft grace period. So if you don't have it right this instant, then go ahead and select other agreement and then enter all ones until it stops you. And then later, when you have procured the RDS CALs, you can configure the RDS license server, and we do have a guide for that, by the way, in the Help Center. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Do I need to pause it all here before going to the next screen?
I don't see any questions.
Okay.
I don't see any questions, Beth.
Okay, great. So, yeah, we've got already in use. No surprise there. So let's try another username suffix.
Sorry, Beth.
That's all right. I know how to get around it. And essentially, the next screen is just going to be a summary. It's going to summarize everything. You'll want to review everything. Okay, and something very handy to have here is the Google Cloud estimate. So based on what you've selected so far, our software will automatically estimate the cost, Google's cost for you. And this is if the servers are on 24/7. And then if you schedule the server uptime so that they're just on these hours during the week, then you can see how your cost is cut by leveraging the server uptime scheduling. But we'll get into that at a later time on how to do that. So
and to be clear, at this point, Beth, they've not sent anything to the cloud yet. It's not live. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So what you do is you review everything, and when you're ready, you check the box, and you click Launch. And that is when our orchestration automation goes onto the Google Cloud Platform and actually provisions the servers, the VMs, the networking, the roles, everything that makes up the domain, the Cloud Workspace domain on Google. And I'm not actually going to click the launch. I'm just going to switch over to a client that's already launched. And what will happen is, at that point, now, you want to go into managing the client. So I'm just going to pick one here. And what you actually see is status pending creation. And you know what, this probably isn't the best example, but you're going to have a widget here that says provisioning status. And let me see if I can just bring it up here. Yes, so you will see these provisioning status items on your module. And our software will systematically work through each of these items as it provisions each component of the cloud workspace. And it takes about 30 minutes. Well, think of it more like about 10 minutes per server for our software to work through all of these items. And there's a little refresh button, and as each is completed, you'll see a green check mark. Now, what you want to watch out for, eventually you all will have to do something. And we have created a to-do list for you. And we automatically put items in the to-do list for you. And when you see the provisioning status get down to something that ends in task, for example, complete RDS license server task, then you'll see tasks in the task module. Over here on the left-hand side of your screen, you have a task module, and when it gets to that point, it will throw tasks in here. And these pertain to installing apps, creating that A record I was talking about for the RDP shortcut. This is your to-do list. And you have to come here, check the box, and mark it complete. And mark them all complete in order for you to get to the next status, which is on cloud. So back to this list, you'll get all green check marks over time, and then it'll stop at something that ends in task. You go and you complete the tasks, and then it will finish automatically, and you will see status on cloud, and that's the ultimate goal. Okay? Other than that, something very important. You will receive an email from Itopia CAS. You actually get two very important emails. One has the domain admin creds. So it tells you how to log into your servers, your PDC, BDC terminal server / file server, and it gives you your Active Directory domain admin credentials with a temporary password. So immediately when you receive that email, you want to log into the server and set your permanent password. Excuse me. The other very important email you'll receive pertains to how to log in as an end user. And it will give you instructions. It will give you a link to go to download the RDP shortcut for the end user. So you want to look for those two very important emails. You want to get all the way through the provisioning status list so that your status is on cloud. And then you can start installing applications, migrating the data, logging in as the end users, and customizing the desktops. Any questions about that so far?
Well, one thing just about the tasks I want to throw out there is, if you've done discovery and you've moved, let's say, 90 applications into up into the platform, it's going to label all of those things or a whole lot of those things as a task, and it's going to say, where do you have one there? Oh yeah, that's install application FileZilla, and it'll say that for a great majority of the apps that you've moved in. You may decide that those aren't apps you want to move up to the cloud, right? It might say add GoPro, right? Install GoPro. You may not want to put GoPro on the cloud, so you can click some of those apps and just mark them completed, because you're not planning to move them up to the cloud, and that's totally okay.
Yep. So there's two ways you can handle that. You can either mark them completed, or earlier in the launch wizard, you did have the option to send all apps to cloud. You could turn that off, and it won't send all of them, so it won't therefore create tasks for them. And you could go to the applications module and send one by one if you would like. So those are the two different ways that you could do it.
Yeah. Just don't want you to be overwhelmed when you see that it says you have 115 tasks. You might only have 15 tasks. So just
Great.
keep that in mind. I get that question a lot from people. So.
Yeah, and think of this just as a to-do list. If you mark it complete, it's not going to actually try to install anything. It's just a check, a to-do list to keep track.
Okay, guys. So we've bumped right up to 3 o'clock. I do want to take a minute to answer any questions that we've got. I don't see any, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any. And if you guys want, I can turn microphones on. You guys can ask your question live. So if you've got a question, just maybe shoot me a chat real quick, or pose it in the questions button, and I will turn your mic on, and you can go from there. Do we have? Let's see. Okay, Greg. I think we got all of your questions answered. Let me just, Greg, did we get all of your questions answered, or did you throw in a couple more?
Yeah, all my current questions are answered, but once everyone else is set, I just have a question on the IP quotas. But and if you want to go around and make sure everyone else is set first.
Okay, great. We'll come back to you here in a second, Greg. All right, let's see. I feel like somebody else asked a question here. Maybe not. Let's see here. I feel like we just got. Nope. Maybe we are all set. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you've got a question, and I will make sure that I get it addressed. If not, guys, that is the first session. Beth, was there anything else that you want to make sure we went over in this session, or did we get as far as you wanted to go?
Yep, no, that was everything. I wanted to get all the way through the launch wizard, the provisioning status list, let them know about those 2 emails, and also the support options, being the chat bubble and the help center guide, because as they start to go through it on their own, that help center guide will be very useful to them.
Okay, great, guys. Listen, we're going to have another session next week. If you guys have questions between now and then, please don't hesitate to send them over to me, and I will either answer them or I will get Beth to answer them. Greg, I know we've got a couple specific questions for you, so trying to keep it on task. We've already gone 2 minutes over. Everybody, I will let you go if you don't have any further questions. Greg, you can stay on. Joshua, if you want to stay on, we can address the couple questions that you had. And everybody else, I will see you all next week. Hopefully I will talk to you before then. But in the meantime, please go play with your system. If you didn't get the client all the way launched, let me know. But let's get the clients all the way launched. And let's get in there. Let's play with our system. Let's make sure that you guys are getting acclimated to it and comfortable with it. And we will be here to help you in basically every way that we can. So without further ado, I'll turn you guys loose. Have fun storming the castle. And I will speak with you all next week. Make sure that you go and register, okay? Thank you all. Greg, I'm going to turn your mic back on and let you get into, I think you had a question about IP.
Yeah. So I'm on the Compute Engine IM and admin quotas page.
What if I just share your screen? Beth, are you okay if we run a few minutes over, Beth?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. Let me, I'm just going to make you a presenter again, Greg, and if you just want to go ahead and share your screen with Beth and I. Scott, I don't know if you need to, if Scott, if you're here, if you want to chime in, or Scott, if you need to jump. I didn't remember if you had a hard stop or not. So.
I don't, but I'm going to jump anyway and get to a few emails here.
Okay. All right, Scott, I will talk with you. Scott, I'm sure I'll be talking with you tomorrow or something. Okay.
Thanks,
Very
Scott.
good. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Yep.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Okay, yeah. So this is, this is where I am. I found my compute static IPs. It looks like I've got my limit of 8. Is this what I'm supposed to be seeing, or is this gonna?
So let's pause on this screen for a moment, and if I could just have a look at your Itopia software and see where you're at.
Okay, yeah. I ended up doing. I ended up doing a new discovery on my computer.
Okay.
Hey, Greg, just so you know, you just won the record for most network nodes that I've ever seen come up on somebody's list. I just want you to know, like, I don't know if that's a good award or a bad award, but you literally just won that award.
Awesome. Okay.
I've never seen 1600 before.
Yeah, not sure quite what's up with that. Okay.
And I just want to make sure that, because I noticed you have the DAS project, number 1, and I wanted to make sure that you were on for the part where I said Google, you should think of a project equal to a client, and each client that you add, you should add a project if you can. It'll help you reconcile the Google bill later.
Okay. Yeah. Can I rename that at any point, or is that kind of a pain?
That is a good question. I'm not sure if you can rename it.
I don't think you can.
Okay.
I had somebody else try, and I to be honest, I don't think that you can do it. You can delete it, and you can recreate it, and that's pretty easy. But I'm 99% certain that you can't rename it, because I had somebody else wanting to do that and they couldn't do it. Okay.
Well, I'll just remind Josh to remind me if I ever ask, which one is DAS. That's our internal.
Okay.
Well, I mean, feel free. What you would do is you would click the plus sign right here and create a new project, and then enable the APIs. So, if you'd like to do it, I'd rather see you do it now, because it's so much easier to do it up front.
That's a good point. Okay. Good point.
I just want to set you up for success here. Sometimes you gotta slow down in order to speed up, and just want to put you in a good position here.
Sure.
And click the plus sign to the right.
Okay.
And you can call it Charlene. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could call it. Yeah, I'll call it CTI. That's even better.
Great. And then it will have you enable the APIs, once per project. So we can do that. And while that's saving and you're enabling the APIs, I'll talk through the answer to your IP question. So you'll notice that, it kind of answered it, the screen answered it for you. You saw the green check mark appear next to the IP quota. So whatever you did, you've already opened up the IP quota enough to satisfy this. Now, since you brought that question, I will tell you, as you provision more and more clients, our software is designed to check your IP quota in a couple different spots. This is one of them that you're seeing right here. But also, when you get to the very end of the provisioning wizard and you have that summary and you click launch, we check again. And if for any reason you don't have enough IP addresses, our system will give you a little error, and it will give you a link to click on and a guide on what to do. So for now, I'm sure. Go ahead.
No, Beth, I was going to say, and that's I haven't actually had somebody ask me that before. It's a great question. But what you're saying is that as he adds clients to the platform and grows, he's going to be asked to expand that multiple times.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I've never had anybody ask me about that, but that's a great question.
Yep. And, if we have to wait a moment for any of these APIs to enable, then I'm going to point out the Help Center guide that pertains to IP quotas to you. So just to give you a heads up.
Okay, yeah, I did open that on my other screen.
Okay, great.
But yeah, I know Help Center and.
Yep, and you see the second one down? Actually, provision fails due to IP quota. That's why I was saying, the other spot that our software checks is, at the end, because in the beginning, we don't know how many servers you're going to try to provision in the beginning of the wizard. We don't know how many users or what you're going to try to do. So we check again at the end once we know everything that you've selected. And when you get that error, you'll see it on the guide there. There's a little snip of it, and then it tells you what you have to do to open up the IP quota. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because when I don't know, for some reason when I went in, let's see, mine just showed -8, but I didn't do anything, and then it said it was okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So our software will let you know.
Okay. Now, let's see. Can you answer a quick question with on deployment? I know it's
Sure.
kind of outside the scope, but I tried running the deployment wizard on my current Amazon workspace, and it ran for about 3 hours and found, I don't know what it found, because workspaces are supposed to be pretty much network isolated. So I ended up just rerunning it on my on my laptop here, because I've got most of my same programs here.
Are you referring to the discovery tool?
Yeah.
Well, you mean the workstation discovery or the network discovery?
That's my question.
Yeah, let's see, the workstation discovery I wasn't able to run because it got flagged by Defender and a couple other things, and I tried unlocking it and wasn't able to. So then I ran the network discovery tool on my workspace, and and it went out and it did something with every IP in the 10 dot space, I think. But do you know if there are any best practices or any ways to run discovery on workspaces? Because I do have, well, and the one client that I'm going to be moving over right after we move has, they've only got like two Amazon workspaces, but it is something that's kind of on my radar, or something I'm going to have to do.
Okay. First, let's start. Since you have it up, go ahead and search for Discovery here, because we do have a lot of good information on both the workstation discovery and the network discovery in here. So when you have a minute, review those two articles. Okay. Now, as far as the workstation discovery, yes, it does download an executable that you have to run. And yes, there are prerequisites to be able to see requirements.
Oh, that's no fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So on both,
okay.
there are sort of requirements and prerequisites. So you'll want to review those.
Okay.
But now on the workstation discovery, we don't actually install anything, but you do have to run that executable, and it just gathers information and writes it back to our portal. Doesn't actually install anything. So you'll just, number one, you'll want to review the prerequisites, make sure that's in line. And number two, just know that, for example, if two different people are logged into a terminal server and both trying to run discovery, only one of them will go through. So you can only run one simultaneous discovery on a terminal server. So FYI on that.
Okay.
And then as far as the network discovery goes, again, take a look at the prerequisites. You do need domain admin creds, which you figured that out already. And then it goes out and it discovers everything on that subnet. So if you have more than one subnet, you'll need to run it once on each subnet.
Okay.
And another inside tip is it will only log the users who are logged in.
Oh, okay.
At that time. So you have a couple options. You can either run it again when those other people are working, or if there's a couple people that you missed, you could have those end users run the workstation discovery to get that user in the system. Just another tip.
And the other thing just about the network discovery tool that you have to keep in mind, and Greg, I think I told you this when we spoke a couple weeks ago, is it really is you may be scanning an enormous amount of data, much different than when you're just scanning one computer. So what I usually tell people to have the expectation is that you may want to have it turn it on and let it run for days. I've heard people tell me that it's taken days for it to scan the entire network, so just be prepared for that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So if they're like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 company, either kick it off at night or kick it off on Friday night and let it run.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you know, because this all used to be manual, right? We used to gather all this information and put it in the system and share it with other employees, and this, you know, will just speed up the process for you. Also helps you with quoting.
Yeah, nice.
So let's see. Let's go back to the Itopia software and click the refresh button at the end of each line and see what we have got, what we have enabled here. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely taking its sweet time, but it will go through.
Billing. Okay.
Sometimes it's faster than others, and if it's taking a little long, I would just, you know, try to click on the hyperlink again and see where that takes you.
Yeah, I've had it take a little while to actually, you know, refresh and show the green check mark. So.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I think, you know, I think at this point I can, you know, I can go through the next couple boxes myself and get you know, get that going. And, you know, and if anything does come up, I'll, you know, jump on with support.
Yeah, jump on with support or shoot me a message, Greg, if you need a little more help. I know you've got a client. I know you've got something you do want to deploy. So I just want to make sure that we you know, keep that streamlined and moving forward as quick as possible. So.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Is that a client that's looking to go live soon?
Yeah. Well, they, you know, he's been on, you know, he has a couple, you know, couple employees on an Amazon workspace, and, you know, he likes the idea of it, but, you know, Amazon workspace is kind of the redheaded stepchild of Amazon these days. You know, and we have, you know, really no ability to troubleshoot or do much to help him if things aren't running just right. So, you know, hopefully we can get him something that's a little more reliable and tunable, and you know, a little bit better for us.
Okay. All right. So when you're ready, you'll create client, add them in. You don't have to add a user, by the way, to send to cloud. You can just create the client, send to cloud to get that going. Add the, you know, click that green plus sign to add the new project, give it the name of that client, go through the APIs, and then once you're provisioned, you can start, you know, installing the apps and copying over the data.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So I will definitely be on the lookout for the admin creds and stuff.
Great. Very important.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Greg. No problem. I will, if I don't for some reason talk to you before, we'll talk again next week. But don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if you need me to put you in touch with Beth for anything, we can do that offline. But we'll make sure that we get you up and running as quick as possible, okay?
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all, and I look forward to talking with you again. Thanks, Beth. I appreciate it. You did a great job, and we'll talk with you here soon.
Thanks. Thanks, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks. You
All
too.
right, bye.